Have you ever experienced betrayal? 1 minute, you're laughing with a friend, planning a future with someone you love, or working side by side with a trusted colleague. The next, it's like a switch flipped. The friend avoids your calls, the partner packs their bags without a word, or the colleague stabs in the back for a promotion you both wanted. These experiences are common, and understanding them can be part of self-growth. It's betrayal, and it hurts. It's a different kind of pain than dealing with an enemy, because betrayal always comes from someone you trusted, someone you let into your inner circle, someone you never imagined would turn against you. The worst part is the feeling of being blindsided. You replay every conversation, every interaction, trying to figure out where you went wrong. You ask yourself, how could I have been so stupid? How could I have missed the signs? But what if I told you the signs were always there? Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, believed that betrayal follows a pattern, and he had a deep understanding of this. Jung, who studied the human mind for decades, believed that betrayal wasn't just a personal failing, but a complex interplay of human psychology. It's a script playing out over and over again in our relationships. Once you understand that script, you can learn to spot the warning signs before it's too late. You can learn to protect yourself, not by becoming cynical, but by becoming more aware. Why do people betray those they claim to care about? And more importantly, how can you see it coming? That's what we're going to explore today, drawing upon the wisdom of Jung and others. What you're about to learn could change how you navigate relationships and help you avoid the devastating pain of betrayal. This understanding contributes to personal development. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. What's something not many people know about betrayal? It's not just the big, dramatic moments that sting. It's the subtle ways it erodes your self-worth, even long after the event has passed. You might find yourself second-guessing your decisions, doubting your intuition, and feeling a persistent sense of unease. And something that isn't often talked about is the physical toll betrayal can take. Insomnia, anxiety, and even physical pain can linger long after betrayal itself. And incredibly, betrayal can even come from yourself through what's called self-betrayal. Not listening to your own needs, pushing down your own instincts, can be a form of internal betrayal that chips away at your well-being. It's important to cultivate emotional balance and inner balance to avoid this. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the Wise Minds channel and hit the notification bell. We're constantly exploring ways to improve your mental and emotional well-being, often drawing from the wisdom of figures like Carl Jung. Now, let's get started. We often hear, this is why people betray you, but let's really understand why. Betrayal rarely explodes into existence. It's not like a sudden thunderstorm. It's more like a slow, creeping mold. It starts small, often unnoticed, building beneath the surface of a seemingly healthy relationship. Think of it as a hidden leak in your house. You don't see the water damage right away, but over time, it weakens the structure and creates a breeding ground for problems, which can lead to toxic relationships. Researchers have found that the early stages of betrayal often involve subtle shifts in communication. According to studies on relationship dynamics, things like increased defensiveness, a decline in empathy, and less self-disclosure are key red flags. It's like the person is slowly closing themselves off, creating distance between you. These are warning signs in friendship or any relationship. Imagine a close friend who always used to share their worries and dreams with you. Suddenly, they become more guarded. When you ask them about their day, you get short, vague answers. They avoid eye contact and seem preoccupied. You might feel like you're talking at them, not with them. This could be a sign that something is brewing, a resentment, a secret, or a growing distance that could eventually lead to a breach of trust. This slow buildup connects directly to what Carl Jung called a shadow self. It's not just abstract psychology. Think of a time where you were mad because someone had something you wanted. Someone bought a new car and you were just green with envy. That envy, if never acknowledged, if you just bury it deep, can take over, and you can take those feelings out on others. Understanding this is key for spiritual growth and understanding human nature. These are the parts of ourselves we don't like to admit we have: jealousy, insecurity, ambition that borders on ruthlessness. Instead of facing these feelings head-on, we try to hide them, even from ourselves. But these hidden emotions don't just disappear. They fester, and they can eventually lead us to act in ways that are hurtful, even betraying the people closest to us. It's a key component in understanding why this is why people betray you. So why does someone betray? It's rarely about you. It's almost always about them. The person doing the betraying is usually dealing with their own internal struggles, their own insecurities, and their own fears. It is about what their shadow self is making them do and feel. You just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, acting as a trigger for their internal conflict. This is true in family relationships and all others. Psychology research shows that people with low self-esteem are more likely to engage in betrayal. That's because people who are insecure often try to protect themselves from feelings of vulnerability. One way to do that is to tear others down, to make themselves feel superior, even if only for a moment. This mindset fuels negativity. Imagine a colleague who's constantly putting you down in meetings, taking credit for your ideas, or spreading rumors about you behind your back. They might be doing this because they feel threatened by your talent or your potential. Instead of working to improve their own skills, they try to diminish yours, making themselves feel more secure in their position. This is an example of manipulation. Betrayal often involves a psychological defense mechanism called projection. It's like shining a flashlight on someone else to highlight their flaws, so you don't have to look at your own. They start projecting their own fears of failure onto you. This is a way for them to avoid taking responsibility for their own shortcomings. If it seems like they have changed, it is likely their shadow self is coming out. This is how we can begin our awakening to the truth. Think of a friend who always encouraged your dreams, but now seems to be constantly one-upping you. You tell them you're training for a marathon, and they suddenly announce they're running an ultra-marathon. You get a new job, and they brag about a better offer they turned down. This isn't necessarily malicious, but it shows they are threatened. This constant competition is a way to avoid facing their own feelings of inadequacy. You probably heard that time heals all wounds. But what's a common misconception about betrayal? It's not that time automatically heals everything. While time helps, active work has to be done to heal from the trauma of betrayal. You can't just sit back and wait for the pain to disappear. It's also important to push back on a common misconception. The one getting betrayed is responsible in some way. It is very harmful when people say, well, if you were just more observant, you would have caught this. If you were just smarter, you would have seen this coming. This is victim blaming, plain and simple. The person who betrays is responsible for their actions, not you. Understanding Carl Jung can give you the motivation to heal. What's a common misconception with betrayal? That it's always a dramatic, obvious act. Often, it's a series of small, insidious actions that gradually undermine your trust. The wise mind's channel explores these subtle patterns. So, how do you spot the warning signs before betrayal strikes? Here are some key red flags to watch out for, keeping in mind that everyone is different and none of these things are definite. Learning these things helps one in building healthier relationships. Look for those little cuts, the seemingly innocent jabs that gradually erode your self-worth. Pay attention to whether their advice is constructive or designed to undermine your confidence. Do they pry into your personal life when you've made it clear you don't want to share? Do they borrow money and never pay it back? Do they show up unannounced? Do they seem genuinely concerned when you're struggling, or do they dismiss your feelings? Have they betrayed other people in the past? If they have, it's a strong indicator that they're capable of betraying you too. This is where someone makes you question your reality through sneaky means. Their kindness is always linked to whether or not you can provide something. Most importantly, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't dismiss your intuition just because you can't put your finger on the exact reason why. Your intuition is often picking up on subtle cues that your conscious mind is missing. A strong sense of self is vital for a conscious awakening. Not all betrayals stem from unconscious resentment or hidden insecurities. Some are cold, calculated, and driven by a desire for power or personal gain. In these cases, the betrayer is often a master manipulator who understands how to exploit vulnerabilities. This often stems from hatred. Human relationships are rarely perfectly equal. There's often an underlying power dynamic at play. Some people have a strong need to control others, to feel dominant. When they sense that control slipping away, they may resort to betrayal to reclaim it. According to social dominance theory, some individuals are naturally driven to seek positions of power and influence within social hierarchies. They may use manipulative tactics, including betrayal, to climb the ladder and maintain their status. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of spiritual awakening. Imagine you're working hard on a project, pouring your heart and soul into it. Your boss seems supportive at first, but then, during a presentation to senior management, they present your idea as their own, taking all the credit. They might justify this by saying they're protecting you or that it's just business. But the reality is they're using your work to advance their own career. Or maybe you told a friend a deep secret about your family. You emphasized that it was only for them to know and that you trusted them to keep this a secret. In a moment where it could serve them and make them more well-liked within the social circles, they reveal that secret knowing it will hurt you. These are challenges that all friends face. Some people possess what psychologists call a Machiavellian personality. These individuals are characterized by their cunning, their manipulativeness, and their lack of empathy. They see relationships as transactional, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get ahead, even if it means betraying those closest to them. They love the feeling of control. Recognizing this kind of betrayal requires a different approach. Don't assume good intentions. Be cautious about sharing sensitive information. Document your work and keep records of your contributions. And most importantly, develop a strong sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on the approval of others. This is how they gain the high ground, by having you be reliant on their approval. Understanding these types of patterns can help you in your personal development. Betrayal is incredibly painful, no matter the cause. It can leave you feeling confused, angry, vulnerable, and deeply wounded. It can shake your faith in humanity and make you question your own judgment. It's important to acknowledge the pain and allow yourself to grieve the loss of the relationship. Don't try to minimize your feelings or tell yourself to just get over it. Betrayal is a serious emotional injury, and it takes time to heal. Be kind to yourself during this process. Practice self-compassion. Remind yourself that you are worthy of love and respect, even if someone else failed to provide it. Journaling can be a powerful way to process your emotions and gain clarity. Talking to a therapist or counselor can provide you with support and guidance. Connecting with friends and family can help you feel less alone. Remember, you don't have to go through this alone. Finding new friends is possible. While betrayal is painful, it can also be an opportunity for growth. Ask yourself what you can learn from the experience. Were there red flags that you missed? Were you too trusting? Did you ignore your intuition? Use this experience to become more discerning in your future relationships. One of the most important things you can do after betrayal is to establish stronger boundaries. Learn to say no to things you don't want to do. Protect your time and energy. Don't be afraid to distance yourself from people who drain you or make you feel uncomfortable. Forgiveness can be a complex and challenging process. It doesn't mean condoning the betrayal or forgetting what happened. It means releasing the anger and resentment that are holding you back. Forgiveness is ultimately about freeing yourself from the burden of the past. This doesn't mean getting back together with a person or remaining friends with them. Forgiveness is a key part of spiritual growth. Ultimately, the best way to protect yourself from future betrayal is to cultivate self-reliance and self-trust. Learn to trust your own judgment, to value your own opinions, and to rely on your own strength. Remember, you are capable of weathering any storm. You are resilient, and you will emerge from this experience stronger and wiser. Betrayal can be a devastating experience, but it doesn't have to define you. By understanding the patterns of betrayal, by recognizing the red flags, and by cultivating self-compassion and self-reliance, you can protect yourself from future pain and build stronger, more authentic relationships. There is hope after betrayal, and by taking the lessons you've learned, there can be a future better than the past. You can make sure that no one is able to stab you in the back again. Wise Minds can help you understand how. Thank you for watching Wise Minds. What are your thoughts on betrayal? How have you handled similar experiences? Share your experiences in the comments and maybe give advice to others. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications. I hope this video was helpful. We will see you in the next video. By understanding human nature, we can better our relationships and live more fulfilling lives.